Alright guys, in this video I'm gonna show you complete setup of OBS Studio so you can start recording your video games, tutorials, whatever you want to record basically. And we're gonna go over all the details, and basically by the end of this video you're gonna be able to start recording and basically do what you gotta do. So let's get right onto it. Before we start, I'm using 1080 Ti NVIDIA graphics card, and I have 2950X Threadripper processor. So my computer is pretty powerful relatively. So, alright, first thing you want to do is go to the settings, and I personally prefer dark theme versus white theme because I think white theme a little bit too much glowing in your eyes, especially if you're recording in a low light like I do. So dark theme is kind of nice, but again, it's your choice. So second, let's go to the output. And I'm not going to be covering streaming too much because you need to do your own experiment depending on your internet connection. Obviously, higher bitrate is better, but you really need to do experiment and see if your internet can support it. By default, this should be good, so don't mess with it. So I'm not going to be going too much into that. Recording. Recording is very simple. At the same time, it can be a little bit complicated. So have a advanced setting over here. So from normal changes to advanced. So you have complete, basically all the options over here, and you have couple things like that. You have recording format MP4. That's what you should click. It's a very good format. Encoder. If you have NVIDIA graphics card, NVENCH, basically what it does, instead of processor encoding, you have your graphics card doing encoding. Therefore, your processor load is like 1.5% versus if you would have the regular H.264, you would have much higher load, something like 20-30%, depending on your processor, which is very huge if you want to do a smooth game recording. So keep that in mind. Next thing, rescale output. Basically set up your monitor resolution. I have 2.5K monitor, so basically that's my resolution over here. Rate of control. Basically you're gonna have variable bitrate and you have constant bitrate. I have constant bitrate of 70 megabits per second, so 70,000. Depending again on how much computer you have can handle, I'd say anywhere between 40,000 to 60,000 should be good. I put 70,000 because I can. Preset, leave it high quality, profile high, level auto, and basically over here don't touch any of these settings. Now, very important, audio tracks. I have 1 and 2. On my audio track number 1, I have video game and I have my computer. So whatever happens inside the video game or computer gets into stereo mode and it's being recorded to track 1. My microphone is being recorded independently to track 2 and it's being downscaled to mono. And I'm going to show you right now. Audio I have at 256. However, if you want, you can do 320, but 256 is kind of enough, so there's no real reason for me to kind of make it more. So now let's go to the audio. Here's where things kind of get tricky. The chipmunk issue. I know a lot of people been asking that when they start recording, they sound like a chipmunk. Basically what happens that your sampling rate sometimes of your microphone is not being supported. And basically, when you start playing video games, the bitrate switches from 48 to 44, and therefore you sound like a chipmunk. So make sure to do a testing. And in my case, if we're gonna go to, let's see, open sound settings. Actually, yeah, let's see over here. Microphone, manage sound devices. Okay, microphone. Hold on. Device properties. Come on. Okay, there we go. I have this microphone set to 44 kilohertz or hertz. and my recording software is basically set accordingly. When I had this set to 48, basically I sounded like a chipmunk, and I found the fix going back to 44 because I guess my microphone doesn't support 48 and there were switch with the video game. I sounded very weird when the game started. So 44 works for me. Now, channels. You want to record in stereo. And I'm going to show you how you can do individually to mono, which is very important too, because my microphone is mono. So if everything recorded in stereo and microphone is being recorded to mono, when you edit, you're going to have only one channel with audio. And especially if you don't really know how to fix all that, if you're not really tech savvy with the editing, that can be a little problem for you. Plus, if you set it in the program, that saves you a little bit time editing. So that's really cool. Desktop audio. Basically, you need to put whatever your audio device is. In my case, speakers. Or if you have headphones, you can choose headphones. Also very important, because if you don't have this thing selected, when you play video game, you may not actually record the video game sound. So make sure your audio device is set properly. Now, my mic auxiliary, that's what I have. Microphone, Fast Track. Fast Track is basically this little thing right over here. I don't know if you can see it. Little M Audio. I'm feeding my XLR microphone into the M Audio, and then M Audio through USB goes to my computer. This is more professional way recorded, because usually XLR microphones a little bit more advanced than USB microphones, but we can argue about it, doesn't matter. Now, everything else, if you don't have any other microphones, leave it as it is. You don't have to worry about that. Next one, video. I have this video set to 4K, and the reason, and again, I'm gonna show it to you in this video, because I'm recording basically, since I do 1080p output, I double that. Therefore, I'm recording right now, you can see 2 screens. That way, I can cut this screen and basically have the screen as a main one. And then myself, I can cut it and place wherever I want, and gives me more flexibility when I edit, rather than me just be in a corner and record everything at the same time, but then I cannot do really anything with myself. Like, for example, if I don't even want to show myself when I record, I can just delete the side basically and not put it on top of this video. And again, I'm going to show everything right now. We're going to get into it. So that's video, 60 frames a second for the video games. Basically, over here, you don't need to change anything in advance. By default, all the settings correct. So, another thing, let's see what I didn't cover. Okay, so audio, we covered that. We covered basically this over here. If you're doing streaming, you're gonna put your Twitch or YouTube right over here. That's gonna be your key. Okay, we're gonna come back to the menu. So now recording. So here's your scenes right over here. And basically what scenes are, that it's kind of like a broadcast. For example, right now in my scene, I have logo, which I disabled. I have microphone being recorded. You can see right over here. Elgato is what recording the web camera. Game capture, what overlays my desktop and recording video game, and display captures, just basically recording my computer screen. Now, how to basically work with all those settings? They're very simple, even though they look intimidating. They are very simple to set up. Like, for example, I want to have some kind of logo right now. So I'm right click, and basically I'm gonna click image. Okay, I can rename it how I want. By default, let's just leave it as image. And I can specify, let's see, work, YouTube, something like that. So let's say like this. Okay, and now I can basically place this image as I'm broadcasting anywhere I want. Here's a trick. If you hold Alt, you can individually shrink this each side, okay, like this. Hold Alt, and you can make basically that little square smaller so you can place this in the corner. Now, without holding any buttons, you can just drag it like that and place anywhere you want on your screen. So this is your image. If you don't want it, just disable it. Just like that. If you want it, click again. If you don't want to mess with it and you kind of want to protect this, here's a little lock. So once you click that lock, you cannot click on it, you cannot move it, so basically it's there. Therefore, here's your sources. It's very simple to set up. Audio input capture. This is basically goes your microphone, if you have microphone like I do. Image, we already showed image. Game capture, very simple again to set up. You just add it and make sure that game capture is always above your display. Display capture should be all the way at the bottom. That way, worst case scenario, you always have something to be recording to. Okay, let's see what else we have. You can add a little video. Actually, media source. If you click on a media source, okay, and let's choose something like subscribe. Okay, now we have this really cool subscribe. Again, by holding Alt, you can make this thing smaller, like that. The top, oops, let's see. It disappeared. Let me loop it. There we go. And here goes the cool stuff with it. So now this thing has disappeared and I cannot no longer really play it back. Let's say if you play a video game, you don't want this thing to be looping constantly. You want it to be, you know, let's say on call. So how do you do this? Very simple and very effectively. So first of all, remove the looping. Okay. So let it play one time. Now go back to the settings. And in the hotkeys, let me call this one subscribe. Let me right click, rename, and I'm gonna call, sorry I cannot see behind microphone, subscribe. All right, so this is gonna be subscribe. So go to the settings, hotkeys, and let's find subscribe. There we go, sub. And basically, you see where it says restart media? I can assign the button. So whenever I push that button, this thing overlays is gonna play. So let's say my button is going to be on the num keypad. I'm gonna say 9. Okay. I apply. I click OK. Now each time I push 9, you have the media playing. It's really cool if you want to do like subscribe when you play a video game, especially when you're streaming. That way you don't have to do it in editing, or basically whatever you want to put. And you can do basically with every single thing that you're adding, you can add this kind of stuff. All right, so let's talk about microphone now. Let me delete that subscribe thing because I don't need it. Image, also, we push minus, it's being deleted. All right, so microphone, very important. Select microphone, right click, and select filters. And basically those filters allow me to configure to a point the cleanest sound from my microphone. So first one, I have noise suppression. Now I have, after that, noise gate. And then I have compressor. How should you set up your own settings? That depends on your microphone. I cannot really tell you, set this thing up this way and it's gonna sound amazing. Like for example, the microphone I have only works very well if it's very close to the source. If I'm gonna start going away and shouting, the microphone doesn't pick up that well, so it's kind of like, you know, that's what it is. That's what I'm working with. Your microphone may be different. Some of you may have very cheap microphones, some of you may have very expensive microphone. The one I'm using is Octava MK12. and it's about $150. So it's kind of a average rate microphone. You know, it's really good for recording musical instruments, by the way. So these are my settings. Basically, noise suppression is when you're completely silent if you have any kind of activity. Over here, let me get silent for a second. See, nothing. That means it's suppressing the noise. When you don't have this, if you have a cheap microphone, you can pick up a keyboard, you can pick up your computer by the side, you're gonna have a background noise. So by default, noise suppression, that's what it does. Noise gate. What noise gate does, basically it opens up microphone as soon as it's reaching certain amount of volume. So if you're gonna whisper very, very quietly, your microphone not gonna record. Noise gate is great if you're talking like me right on a microphone and you wanna completely block your keyboards. Like if you're playing video game and you don't want that clicking noise from the keyboard, this is your noise gate. This is what it does. And again, you need to select your own. Basically, open threshold means how loud you gotta be when microphone opens up and start recording. And close, basically opposite. And compressor is basically compresses your sound. Again, play around with it. I think I have default settings, works very well for me. So that's my microphone settings. Sorry, Microsoft. Another very important thing. If you click on this little gear over here, and go to advanced audio properties. Basically, you're going to have very interesting little menu over here. Remember how in the very beginning, in the settings, right over here, in the in the output, what we're talking about that I have 1 and 2 selected. So I have 2 channels. When you click on that little gear and go to advanced settings, you can specify which basically device you wanted to record on audio track. Since I have 2 audio tracks only, my desktop is being recorded to number 1, which is my main stereo track, and my microphone only recording to track number 2, and I have selected down mix to mono because my microphone is mono. So when I record video game and talk like I do right now, my video game being recorded in stereo and my microphone being recorded in mono, that means my voice can be heard on left and right speakers. If you don't have this selected, your microphone most likely going to be only heard on the left channel, which is weird. So this is what the settings for. Your other devices, you can also specify if, let's say, you know, you have like the clip I showed you, let's say with subscribe you have some music playing. Each time you push that subscribe thing, you have like a little funky music, whatnot. You can assign the 3rd channel to have that music. So in worst case scenario, let's say if you change your mind and you don't want that music to be played anymore, you can just deselect that and no sound gonna be getting recorded. So that's essential basics. Now let's talk about scenes. Scenes are basically like a broadcast. Like whatever you watch NFL or baseball, whatever, this is your scenes. And here's a cool thing about how to set up the scenes. If I'm going to right click and duplicate the scene, and I'm gonna call this one scene 2. Since I duplicated, basically all my sources remain the same. But let's say in a scene 2, I want to add, again, let's add image like that. Okay, let's see. Let me add image like this. Okay, so this is my scene 2. Now, if I'm gonna go to scene 1, I don't have that. So scene 2, completely different from scene 1. So I can switch between them. And the way you set it up, just like before, you go to the hotkeys and you see how it says scene 2, switch to scene 2. I can assign num1. Okay, and then my recording scene, Actually, since it's scene 2, let me do number 2. And my recording gonna be number 1. So now when I'm recording, I can always switch with the keypad between switch scene 1 and scene 2, and basically, you know, whatever you do, it's probably more beneficial if you're streaming. You can say, hey, subscribe, or you can change camera angle. If you have a lot of cameras going on, you can basically switch between them. So this is how you do scenes. And basically, I think that covers most of the stuff. You can, again, adjust the little transition between scenes. If you don't want that little fade, you can adjust the milliseconds over here. And basically, that's what this scene transition is. You can select like different one. You can either do fade or straight cut, but I think fade is a little bit more nice. Now, let me see if I covered everything. We went through video. Again, video, the frame rate. Highly recommend doing 5994 instead of 60, because, for example, I record my video on the DSLR acting as a web camera, and my DSLR cannot do true 60. It does 59.94. So you don't want to have a little mismatch. Technically, broadcast standard would be 59.94. So keep that in mind. Just like with the 30 frames a second, you don't want to set 30, you want to put 29.97. That's just a little technical specifications. Again, streaming, you see I don't have anything assigned over here because I don't stream, but you can select how many audio tracks you want. And basically, with the recording, I have 2 audio tracks like I covered. Recording path, I really recommend recording to SSD versus regular hard drive, especially if you have a slow hard drive. You may have problems with it, so SSD, highly recommended, or whatever faster than SSD, maybe NVMe. So that's about it. I guess thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to subscribe, and I'll be making video games after this video. So catch you later. See ya.